Yeah, let's jump in and do a mix.
So I have here this really badass track that we were lucky enough to produce on PureMix a year or two back. It's a band called Paris Monster, and it's really awesome. It's one dude playing drums, bass, and singing, and another dude synth bass, and another dude playing bass and babysitting a modular drone, and that's the band. And they're wonderful. And it was recorded 100% live at Flux in the other room. It's all done straight from the Neve into Pro Tools. There are no plugins, and these are the tracks. So let's see. Let's find a spot where it's cool. Well, first let me play you a little bit of the song so you get the vibe. Let's see.
89 did it. They are lying intention over the hill. True. Over the hill because in our society, 89. I've examined it.
Then he starts singing and it's insane. Check it out. Where is he? I think. I mean, come on. The dude's playing. You should see the video. We'll put the link to the video in the description of this thing. It's preposterous. Not now, but after. We have in this track, and everything's raw, so this is perfect for this. We have the vocal. Yes, the vocal is in solo right now. It's an SM7, and he's playing so loud that there's no isolating anything. The only little thing there's a send to a delay. Without the delay, it sounds like this. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, all tracks go to a bus called sum. That sum bus feeds an aux called sum, and that aux goes to a bus called print, which feeds a track called mix. You know what? Let's be consistent here. Let's call that track. Well, actually, no. It's called mix because that's the mix from the show. But not today, here, right now, when the little input monitoring light is green, we're listening to what I'm doing today. And this is the vocal in solo. I could try and describe how loud it was in the room that day, but there are no words for it. So the other thing that we have in this session is an inside kick. Kick out. The two of them together. I did a parallel, probably through in 1176. Let me see if the comments have the name of the machines. They don't. So I think it was in 1176 or something like that. So it's the two kick microphones in and out. It was probably a D112 plus a sub kick, routing to an 1176. Sounds like this. Part for the chorus. Snare top, probably 57. Nope, not a 57. That's a LA120, I think. And then the bottom. And then the same thing, parallel compression, that I did in real time in analog off the Neve back into Pro Tools. That's kind of cool. Hi-hat. As always, serves no purpose. The rack tom, something like this. Let me find one. He's such a badass. Overhead. Of course, in the overhead, you can hear all the mess. And when he's singing, where is he singing? You can hear him sing. And then we had a Latin torch, which is a microphone they no longer make, as like the whole kit. That's cool too. That's interesting. Probably going to use that. And then a drum parallel, same thing. The whole drum, probably through 33609 or something like that. I don't remember. Now that's a complex. I would think this is a complex. If that's a 33609, I was clearly not paying attention to it. Bass DI. That's the real bass. Then we had an amp. In the room. Synth DI. And then I had an amp on the synth. So in this case, Josh Dion, the drummer slash singer slash bass player, synth bass player, was not playing synth. When it was not playing bass, he was playing synth while singing. And playing drums. And then there was the drone. So we had, the drone had a DI and an amp. And that's it. So I like to get my bearings. Well, first thing you need to do, if you're a grown man with principles, is you put your name on your stuff. This is a new kind, Fab Sugar Mix. So that if you screw up, your name's on it and you're responsible for it. That's the way. So let's see the vocal. You know what? Let's do something bold. Select all and go to Process, Sugar. Et voilà. Because this is linear, I can high pass. So I'd like to get the, it's an SM7, and he's about this close to it, and he is singing his ass off, and there's a whole bunch of noise. But I think Sugar would benefit, the vocal would benefit from the drive. You hear that presence? Let me play with and without. This is without. With. It just goes, which is what I need. Isn't that amazing? And then I'm going to use the high and air bands in overlapping to try and get him a little more open, a little more forward. So we started here. Now we're here. It sounds like it has those transient saturation. It sounds almost compressed, but I'm not compressing. Then I would like to try the medium bend, see if I can give him a little more body. In this case, it's going to be complicated because of all the chaos around him. Maybe it's going to work out. You never know. I'm going to bypass this band here on and off for you to hear the effect of just that one band. make sure that broad is not better.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Oh, they McQuine, you come.
I like warm better. It's not as invasive. Great. So we started with the vocal here.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
We're here.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
It's nice. So let's get some bass running. Let's see if I can get away with just the amp.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient.
So for the sake of demonstration, I want to go in solo. You hear all that flabbiness at the bottom, so I want to get rid of that. Steep. That's pretty cool. I think this is going to benefit from this. Check broad. Broad is bananas.
Resilient, strong. Behold, it would break for long, said the game, and I don't.
Let's see what happens if I add the DI.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collect.
Obviously, it's kind of thin. Sugar can be great for that. Bananas with the two of them. I like that. Anchors the two of them very nicely with the vocal.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold.
You know what? To simplify things and to not confuse you, instead of having these in solo, I'm just going to mute everybody else. That way I can get off solo.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
We started here with no sugar.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
Now we're here.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold, it would break for long, said the game, and
That's the trick. Simpler would be painful. I trust you'll agree. So I'm going to put sugar on the mix bus too because I'm going to add a little bit of the bottom, which is kind of the same thing you would do with the pull tech. A little bit of the top and drive. Don't tell anyone.
oh,
And I'm also going to engage the filters.
oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold.
This is without.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
With.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold, it would break for.
Maybe I want a little bit less of the amp, a little bit more of the direct so I can get more presence.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold.
We started here.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong.
Here.
Oh, they McQuine, you come collected. Resilient, strong. Behold.
Doesn't suck. All right, cool. So now let's go look at our bass drum, which is probably going to be our focus for a moment. Mark, any questions? Anything? Did I go too fast? Am I making sense? Is life wonderful? How about those Yankees?
It's going great. I'm not sure about the Yankees, but we did have a question that I think it'd be cool to hit now. Jared Fink in the chat room asks, if you always work with level management off?
Yeah, that's the thing for me. As mentioned many places, I have a physical allergic reaction to any auto gain stuff. And it's me personally, and I know it works for a lot of people, which is why we put it in. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, Sugar has this level management thing. And what Sugar level management does, let me backtrack a little bit. It is very, 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 very hard, and it takes a lot of work and calculation. And it's extremely inaccurate to provide auto gain. Whenever you see an auto gain button, somebody took a guess, because music is nonlinear. This is a nonlinear process. The minute things are nonlinear, it's very hard to compensate for gain. And technology is getting better and better, and algorithms are getting better and better. But the true, genuine, functioning auto gain systems, in my opinion, and it involves myself, I think, are basically jerry-rigged and tuned to help out. So instead of doing this auto gain thing, which I felt I was never happy with, we said, you know what, we're gonna manage the level, because Sugar can add a lot of level. So if I go on the kick out, for example, okay, I'm gonna raise the thick button. Check out the amount of energy that's coming out of it. If you have a meter, I just added like 8 dBs or 10 dBs of gain. So me, because I've done this at least once or twice before, I know what to expect, and it's part of my consciousness of what the plugin is going to do. But since PureMix and myself have had a mission of educating people, and we've been telling people you need to manage your levels and you need to match gain before you're going to make decisions on whether something's good or not, we thought it would be hypocritical and in bad taste to not have some sort of help for people to manage levels. So if you click level management on, when you raise the gain, you'll notice that the output level goes down, which is what you do on the 1176. Right? On the 1176, you raise the gain and you lower the output. So this is an automatic way of doing that. And we did it the best we could within the parameters. When we had a first version, it sucked, and then second version, it sucked, and then it started getting better. By version X, it started to be very useful. And I personally don't use it, but as I tell my daughter every day, don't do what I do, do what I say. A lot of people think it is really useful, and I'm happy because it took us forever to come up with the right curves. By the way, the drive, distort, and crush are also compensated in their own way. Otherwise, the minute you put 10% of drive, your levels will be out of control. So we made it so that when you jack up the drive, your level stays as together as possible. It's very difficult. Anybody who has a guitar pedal board would know how hard it is to level all those things together when you don't know what the signal is. So you're in rehearsal and all your levels are bananas. The end of the rehearsal, you are Steve Vai. Your sound is perfect. Then you go to the first show and everything's out of whack. That is because it's really hard to do. So level management is designed to help you. So level management is designed to help you, but it's not the law. It cannot be the law without going through processes that would make this plugin not as useful and not as valuable and not as efficient. So it is your little 1176 or LA2A helper, and that's what it's for. So the same bass drum, if I do this, it's much more manageable and it's much more reasonable. Myself, maybe I should force myself to do it, but then I'm going to lose my automatic gain compensation in my head is going to go out of whack, so that's not going to work. Sue me.
Super useful. To be clear on that too, you're saying when you turn up the saturation, there's automatic level management regardless of whether or not that button's engaged, right?
Guitar players, yeah, it's independent. Mm-hmm. That one is always on because I couldn't think of a reason why. You know, when you're at a show and the guitar player who listens to a lot of Metallica hits that black Boss metal drive thing and his sound jumps 20 dBs and you're glued to the back wall. I hate that. So the minute we put a drive in there, I said we got to do the best we can for this to be constant level. It's been the same thing. Guillaume and myself, we used to work together here at Flux, and we became like, we saw so many products and so many processes pass through, and everybody thinking, "Wow, man, it sounds so much better." And then if you level match them, you realize that they didn't. And so when we started Pure Mix, we were like, we're going to help people not lie to themselves, and we've been advocating level compensation since then, because that's a great way. I mean, if you just want to jack up the level and enjoy it, that's great. But if you want to make that's wonderful. Which is probably why I don't use level management as much as I should. But the reality is, if you want to learn, if you want to get better, you have to level compensate. Otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Which is why when we put the drive in, I was like, we have, and Guillaume too was like, we have to level compensate this. Otherwise, it's just a gigantic volume knob with distortion, which is absolutely useless for mastering engineers or for mixing engineers. We want things to feel good and be able to be manageable, especially in the low range. So we did that. It was a lot of work, but it's cool. It turned out pretty badass. Bass drum. I'm going to do that while listening to those two bass drums. So since sugar is linear phase, I can use sugar on two microphones that are on the same instrument without creating chaos in between the two microphones. If I try to do this with a nonlinear system, the bottom would go away and it would get all phasey, and it would feel like somebody's sucking my brain out of my ears with a straw, but it doesn't, because this is what it does. So I'm going to play them separately so you can hear what's going on. So no sugar. Sugar. This is a bit much. That's awesome. Inside. So this is not my finest hour recording an inside kick drum. I think he had two heads on it. I think there was no hole in the bass drum, and that's why it sounds like this. So we're gonna have to do something about this. Yeah. So bass drum without sugar at all. With. I dig it. Let's see if the parallel kick drum helps. Yeah, adds attack. Yeah, adds a transient because the attack on the compressor was probably open, but it's boring as hell. So let's listen to the parallel kick drum in, with, and without the sugar correction I just did. This is without. With. It's nice. All right, so let's see what we have so far. Let me remute everything that we haven't touched.
Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. But oh, they would break for long, said the day. Oh, they require you calm.
So you can hear that this guy has a little bit of that 200 in it, and that is going to be in the way for me. So I'm going to lower the warmth.
They require you calm, collected, resilient, strong.
So the bass drum can come under. Well, in your point of view, the vocals here, the bass drum can come under. If I left that warm higher, the bass drum would start eating into the vocal, and I could not make it feel like it's under him, literally sitting, playing the bass drum and singing like this. So I'm gonna lower this.
Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong.
As a reminder, we started here.
Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong.
Now we're here.
Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. But oh, they would break for long.
I really like that that parallel kick, what it does. So I could jack it up here, but I kind of like, it's kind of neat looking that most of these faders are 0, right? So let's just leave it at 0 and jack it up and use this extremely useful output fader.
Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. But oh, they would break for long, said the day, and I don't see no need to heal.
So I should probably start lowering levels here. Let's just lower the input into sugar.
Oh,
This is the mix bus thing. I'm jacking quite a bit of level here.
oh, they require you calm,
I slipped.
oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. But oh,
Let's do a quick reality check with where we were on the very expensive Neve that was over there.
oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. But oh,
Today,
oh, they require you calm, collected.
the shape of it is great, so we're in very good shape. We don't have something that feels lackluster. Quite the contrary, it feels very wide rangey for no compression and technically no EQ. Let's open the snare. Oof. That is so badass. Mark, do you have something you want to interject? Would you like to slow the process down?
No, not at all. This is great. And we want to see you mix, so super fun. There's a little bit of a thing going on in the chat room where people are considering letting you use one parametric EQ. They might allow it, they say.
Do it. My religion forbids it.
Absolutely. So one question that people have are about the fixed frequencies on the bands. So some people are asking if you can change them. Some are asking how you chose them.
As I explained at the beginning, it's very difficult when you do something that's different from if you have something that looks like it should be something, but it's something else, then everybody assumes that it's what it looks like as opposed to what it is. You know what I mean? So it's not a multi-band compressor, and thus it's a multi-section enhancer. It's not a multi-band compressor, it's a multi-section enhancer, and that's what we should have called it. And but we call it a multi-band enhancer because when you talk with the design team and everybody talks to each other, we call it multi-band. It looks like a multi-band. It's not a multi-band. Those are 4 separate sections with 4 areas. When you switch from warm to broad, those frequencies, the overlapping frequencies, they change because if you want something warm, you don't want something in the 500 range. So what we could have done, I guess, is we could have like made that line move up and move down, but then it would have been a bloody mess, because what happens when you do this and this and this? Everything changes and everything is adjusted for it to be most useful. So it's the crossovers change depending on the processes you're using, because if you're going to do shine, probably you're going to go down to like 4K or 5K. If you're going to start exciting something and use more of an effects vibe, it's probably going to have to go a little bit higher so that you don't excite the S's, say. So it's not the way you think of it. This is 4 processors in one, with 2 colors per processor and 4 separate levels. Just like when you switch between limit and compress on an LA2A, you don't really know what's going on. You listen to what's going on, and well, you know what's going on. They change the speed and the way they hit the optocell, but they don't tell you, well, we go from 1 millisecond to 8 milliseconds, because nobody knows, plus it differs from cell to cell. It is a sound and that you use to make it use for you. So when you use sugar, we made absolutely sure that if you just take the default and you push the faders up, it's useful to you. And then you can start digging into it. After a couple days of using it, you're going to start feeling it, because it's so direct, one-to-one with you. It's 2 buttons and 1 fader. You're going to start feeling that, and you're going to be able to do what people did with a simple 3-band EQ or an LA2A or an 1176. You're going to be able to be mixing, and all of a sudden that sound is going to come in your head. You're going to instantiate sugar, and you'll be at that place in 5 seconds, as opposed to putting the plugin on and then screwing around for 20 minutes to find something useful. This is not how it's going to work. You're going to screw around during your learning curve period, which will be, we think, very short, and that sound will come in your head because it's a typical sound that's designed to do this one thing, because you cannot change it. But because it's very useful and it's been designed to be useful on many things, once you have that sound in your head, you will be inspired to use it, and it will come to you, will say, sugar would be great for that, and you'll do it. You know what I mean? That is a very different way of doing things. That's the way it used to be done. You used to have the console, whatever the console was, and that was it. And if you could not do what you wanted to do, there was a producer desk with a whole bunch of outboard behind it. And you didn't just go around and plug things and try. You knew that outboard because it talked to you, because it had a one-on-one relationship with you, and you were able to sit there facing this way with the outboard behind you and think, and tell the poor assistant who just had made its 17 coffee, said, can you patch the Pultec on that? Because you knew from your body, from your experience, and from using a Pultec for that one thing before, because the Pultec only does this way, you knew that would solve your problem. This is what sugar is going to do for you. That's the spirit. And that's why it's not this factory of like bands and stuff and attacks and releases, and you would not gain from that. We tried many, many things, and we felt that this is the sweet spot. Super usable and fun to use and inspiring. My friend Stelios, who works downstairs, we were working on a record, and he saw me use sugar everywhere, so I gave him a better copy. And you have to have some sort of advantage for living in New York. So he got an advanced copy of sugar. And he came back the week after and he said, man, I use it on everything. It's great. I use it on this, I use it on that, because he just spent the time with it. And now he says, I have these things I use it for because it does that for me. And that's really the spirit. Anything else before I torture this poor snare drum?
Let's see. How about defining what the levels are doing as you're raising them? Are we working with a all wet signal?
So okay, so if I listen to my snare drum, when everything is at 0, it's the same as if the plugin is off. No difference. So you always have your dry signal, always. Actually, you know what? I have a system for this. Whoosh. So, can you, Andrew, can you please show the screen? You always have your dry signal. It's always on. And then you add the different levels into it, all 4 bands, all 4 sections into it, and you sum the dry and the 4 sections, and then you go through the high and low pass filter, and then you go through saturation. So This control here is basically you. So let me show you. Let's say this snare clearly could use some love in the sh part, being technical. So I'm going to start with shine. Let's see, I'm happy with this, but am I missing something by not using excite? I don't like that. I think it's too much. So shine is it. If you hit effects only, you mute the direct signal and you hear what sugar is doing. Make sense? So when you jack up the level of the high band, you take this signal and push it up and sum it in parallel with the direct signal. That's what sugar does. So you could actually, if you had this in your brain, you could say, you could listen to this. Imagine what's missing, go in the FX only mode and start playing. So I'm imagining in my head that this is what's missing on this snare drum. I remove FX only, and this is my new snare drum. Not bad. This is where we started. Now. It's nice. All right. So it's a parallel processing system. It's not just parallel compression. I explained before, it does several different things, but it's parallel, meaning you add it to your signal. That's why those faders don't have a negative thing. It's just more. It came from a concept of boosting. And so this is just to boost what's missing in your signal. Just like, cereal in the morning sucks without sugar. There you have it. So let's see the snare in the context. I may have overdone it with this kick power. All right, bottom snare. Oof, I hate bottom snares. Whatever. Always sounds like something's broken to me. Parallel. So let's try and do something gnarly with this. Actually, you know what? The gnarly let's do this. Let's mute the parallel snare. Let's look at the parallel, the whole kit. What happens if I jack that into the mix? We started here. We're here. It's nice. So let's listen to what this. Let's put the drone in the spirit. So that's really cool. I think it needs shine. I'm doing something offensive. I'm using the DI on the left and the amp on the right. Don't tell anyone. Definitely don't tell my mother. I'm going to make a group of the two of them. Let's call it drone. Why are the groups? What's going on? What is wrong with me? I'm going too fast. There you go. That's what's wrong with me. Poof. There you go. Clearly that was too much on the right. Let's do that again. Bass, the synth that I'd like to remind you that he plays synth while he's singing and playing drums. Just saying. Oof, the phase is really freaky between the two of them. I'm going to use just the amp. It makes a mess. Let's try and get the vibe from the DI without the mess. I'm moving the wrong sugar, which is why we're not hearing anything. I'm a trained professional here, people. Don't use this at home. 1 second. Yeah, much better. So I'm going to try and get a little bit of the grit I was getting from the amp, without sugar, on the DI, so I don't have to deal with the bleed as much. So this is the amp. This is the DI. Need a little more exciting. Much better like this. Let's see how it feels. Oh, by the way, we started this here. We're here. Oh, there's places where only the amp plays, only the amp plays, not the DI. Well, that's regrettable. Oh, no, of course not. That's just insane amounts of bleed. Okay. You know, I think it would be kind of cool to use some of that delay on the synth. The delay that I have on the vocal. Less. That's pretty cool. So I'm jacking the level of the vocal a little bit, but not in a fader. I'm just going to bring more of the sugar parallel in it. What the sugar does on the voice is this. This is just the processing. Find a place. Reality check with the low pressure mix from the actual day. Well, we didn't have sugar at the time. So What else do I got to do? Let's see if there's anything more interesting on the drums that I could use to do cool shit. So this is what we call a failure. This is supposed to be cool. There's nothing cool about it. Let's see. That's interesting. So this is without. With. It's nice. I could maybe use this to bring the super high end. You hear? Let me show you what it does. It's pretty awesome. So what I'm doing is, so this was the Loudon torch, but I put it in the wrong place. Those Pure Mix Live events were really intense. We literally set everything up, cameras, lights, sound, and mixed it all in real time. And our setup time was like an hour. It was like kind of like a challenge, and the idea was to remind everyone why we're doing this for. We're not doing it for the buttons, we're doing it for the music, and to not agonize over like the bass drum setting for 8 hours, to just like, wow, go and rock. And so sometimes I failed because there was not a lot of time, and there was not two take. It was like rock, go. And there was cameras. Whenever you put a camera into anything, hell breaks loose. So we were here. I love this sound. We were here with the microphone, which was really not the best. I mean, it's not offensive, but it's not going to change the course of modern music. And then, so then I decided to just see what happens if I'm not nice to it. So I'm using the distort saturation on Stun 100. Then I was like, I love this. If I'm going to solo all the drums to show you what it does. Then I thought, hey, this may be a way to bring kind of like the air in further back in the room, because I don't want to make the snare brighter. It's already on the edge with the vocal and everything. But what if I could make that thing behind it brighter? Check this out. So I'm going to turn the bypass sound line off on the air band. Start with it off. Hear how it turns the lights on? It's pretty awesome. And then also this distorts the bass in a way that's pretty awesome. And then what has this one? So maybe I don't need as much distortion on the bass. Let's see. No, I like it. So that's that. What's up, boss? Somebody.
So I got a couple things for you. Our friend Wolf Viewer is in the YouTube chat room.
What up,
Says
Warren?
hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, he's going to be making a video about it, he says.
Oh, I'm honored.
So I think this is a good time for a question that we had submitted. This one comes from Gaston Guana from Tandil, Argentina. He says, Fab, first of all, thank you.
Wait.
My question
Argentina? Hola, boludo. ¿Qué pasa?
Nice. All right. So he says, my question is how to achieve a 3-dimensional mix with dynamics, but at the same time using drive to give color. I feel that by using the drive to the point that I hear it to my liking, it crushes a bit of the dynamics. Maybe my inexperience is clear, but accepting this, I can solve. Hug, Gaston. I think we have Fab muted.
Am I muted?
Let's try again. There we go.
Okay.
Now you're good to go.
I'm back. So it's not an experience. It is what it is. When you start saturating or distorting a signal, just like with you've all recorded very distorted guitars. Do you need to compress them? No, you don't, because there's no dynamic in it, because the dynamic is the difference between the transient and the body of the sound. So if you start distorting, the first thing that goes away is the transient, so you lose your dynamic. That's the point. Now, if the sound you're looking for is you want softened transients, but you want to keep all your dynamics as is, you could do two things. Either you could use less of the drive, or drive is not what you need to do what you want to do. You may want to try something more classic, like the 800 or the 102 or the Kramer tape from Waves. The 800 102 is from UA. The Kramer tape is Eddie Kramer's plugin. It's fantastic, and that's from Waves. That is a more gentle thing that will not. It's not as obvious, and it's not as forward, but it does what it may do what you want to do. The other thing is to use less of it. But if you like the tone of it, but you don't like the fact that it actually softens the transients, then you're in a conundrum, because I think what you like of it is that it softens the transients. At least that's what I like. It's designed to soften the transients, saturate that, and gives you more presence. But it also does that by bringing low levels up, which means you have less dynamic. Does that make sense? What else you got, dude?
Check it out in the live room here.
I don't hear you, dude, but you look great.
Thanks. Okay, there we go.
I still don't hear
Hold
you.
on. This is really trippy. I hear my own voice back in these headphones, and it makes it impossible to
I
talk.
still don't hear you.
So hold on a second.
But it's
here.
fun.
Let's see. So let's
I don't hear him.
let me run through some
The
of
internet
these,
is taking over.
and we
Stop.
keep mixing for a minute. Oh, you're talking.
I don't hear you. I have Mark right here.
Here we go.
I have Mark
Okay.
right here on a separate screen, so I can see him. And sometimes, but
All
not
kinds of
always,
fun.
hear him. What up?
Let's have you mix for another minute, and then I'll interrupt. Where I'm going to take you next, though, is to the MS features on the
Yeah,
stereo
that's
bus.
coming next.
Great.
All right, let's keep looking at some things.
Is slow. It's too high, I can dance and dreaming a doubted child.
I think the vocals are a little loud.
Is slow. It's too high, I can dance and dreaming a doubt. Stone, I added so high, she climbed, clutched and trembled.
I don't like what the overhead does. Let's go look at the tom. Okay, well that's weak. So what I'm doing is I'm using the direct sound to add what I'm missing in the main bus. I don't want this to sound this way, but I know that I'm hearing a lot of it elsewhere, and in the track it sounds like this. A little more. As opposed to where we were. With. That's too much. I'm not doing a good job. Let me lower this. Okay, so that's not working. Let's try broad. Better. Yeah, much better. In track. Yeah.
Jump for me, baby.
Started here.
Jump for me, baby.
Now.
Jump for me, baby.
Maybe a little less. I'm being brutish here.
Jump for me, baby.
So now it's a little too defined. So I'm gonna bring it back down. I'm just gonna bring the level down.
Jump for me, baby.
Not that much.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy.
I'm curious to know what would happen if I did something with the hat. I kind of miss that that upbeat thing.
Jump for me, baby.
So this is a mess. This is a bloody mess, even. Again, this is not designed to sound this way. This is designed to fill in what's missing in the whole mix. So without,
Jump for me, baby.
with,
Jump for me, baby.
super crucial to the groove. And so without sugar, it'd be hard to place that hat. I mean, I could do it maybe with an EQ, but I like the fact that it's controlled.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong. Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. Oh,
Let me check the original mix.
jump for me, baby. Oh, went crazy wrong.
No,
Jump for me, baby.
it's a little too loud. I'm going to lower the input.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong. Jump for me, baby.
I lower it too much. Let's do 40 beats.
Jump for me, baby. Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong. Oh,
Old mix.
jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong. Oh, they require you calm, collected.
I like today better. So a lot. I've opened everything. I'm not gonna use that snare parallel today. It's not a snare parallel kind of day, and it's also not a synth amp kind of day. There are days with and days without synth amp. Today is a day without synth amp, but I really like where it is. So the raw tracks sounded like this when we came in earlier.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong.
And now we're here. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. So many buttons. So again, this is where we started.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy.
And now we're here.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong. Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong.
Adding a little bit of the broad on the whole mix. Without.
Jump for me, baby.
With.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong.
I like it better with a little bit. Maybe that's too much actually. It just listen to the bottom of the snare. Without.
Jump for me, baby.
With.
Jump for me, baby. Went crazy wrong.
It's nice. How are we doing? I'm mixing to a wall.
Yeah, doing great. Everybody's digging it. Some people dig the distortion. Some people miss the silky top end. Got a
No,
mix of
this
things
is
going on.
you have to shake Josh Dayon's hand to understand that he's not a silky top end kind of guy.
That's right.
He's,
Just listen to those.
I just
drums.
love the sound of that drive on this. This is beautiful. Yeah, this is good.
It's gnarly.
I don't get to do this on David
Actually, to
Crosby
the effect
records,
of the
so I'm
low
going to
end.
do it. What?
To the effect of the low end, we have a question from Butch Jones in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, that's not very far.
And he's asking, how do you keep your low end clean and tight?
High pass filters, as you may have noticed, in pretty much everything. I didn't high pass the snare. Well, I'm not using this track. Let's get rid of it. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. There you go. I have a high pass at 34, 20 hertz, 24 dB per octave on the inside kick. At 29 on the outside kick, it could be 30. These are not exact numbers. These were just like, this felt good there. May feel better at 30, but it feels good enough there, so I move on. And at 24 on the high pass, on the kick parallel, the snare is untouched because it didn't go that low. The hat, as you remember, I high passed up to 700 hertz to make sure it didn't make a mess at the bottom. 39 hertz on the rack tom. The overhead is not used; it's at 0. And the kick torch, well, that's just an obscenity. It's a high pass at 68 hertz, and the drum parallel is not high passed. The bass is high passed at 27. The bass amp is high passed at 60. The synth is high passed at 24. So basically, there's no garbage down there because I high pass everything. We were gonna make T-shirts that say high pass everything. We might still do. You guys chime in the chat. Should we make T-shirts that say high pass everything? If you all think we should, then we will.
Nice. Do you think this is the time to get into MS?
Yes. I thought you had another question.
We're waiting for the chat room to chime in.
Okay. So, check this out. First, if you control click on the MS button, command click. I have a weird keyboard. It's wireless. It's also senseless. So if you, for the rest of the humanity, if you command click on the MS button, you switch to MS mode while copying your settings. Remember, I was here. This is the settings I did there in stereo. I could switch to MS mode. Well, no, I can't anymore, but if you control click on MS when you switch to MS mode, it copies your settings for stereo to MS mode, so you can start from there. So you could, for example, excite. Obviously, I don't want to excite the center, but maybe I want to put a little bit of high end just on the sides. That's too much, but it's very interesting. Here it widens. So let's do the same with the yang. Insta width. This is great for that. The other thing you could do is, because you don't want to make a mess in the bottom, add a little extra of the low band just in the middle. I mean effects only right now. Sounds like this. So it allows me to do this. So I can broaden, I can fatten the center without touching the sides because it's a live record, for example. So it would be a bloody mess if I put too much of the low on the sides. But I can open the high end, like the air band and the high, just on the sides, not touching the center. And it allows me to just broaden this thing very quickly. This is without sugar on a 2 mix. This is why I don't do it this way. Let me do it another way. Minus 4.5. I'm just going to hit it softer. Where was I? 6.5. Okay, check this out. So this is with. Without. Feels good when you turn it back on. It just makes it more into a record. I think I've gone over everything into the box. Every band, every process, every button. Yeah, done everything. Do we have any more questions? And we have something that sounds kind of like a record.
Okay. Let's see. John Wright is asking in the Pure Mixers Facebook group, can you explain the FX only function?
Yes. So the idea here is, okay, so this is a parallel processing device, right? And in most parallel processing devices, you have to jump through hoops to figure out what the device is doing, right? It's really difficult. Either you go all the way to, if it's a wet dry thing, you have to go all the way to wet, and then you have to come back to your wet dry thing. It's difficult to figure out what the thing is doing. It's a lot of manipulation. Here, you just hit the FX only button. So if I go, I don't know, let's say if I go on this bass DI, the dry signal is like this. I know what a dry signal is by bypassing the plugin. And then the wet signal, just what Sugar does, you can be obtained by printing FX only. All you hear is the FX. So Sugar is generating this from your signal and adding it back in, and it sounds like this with the combo. So the FX only button is the absolute best way for you to learn what the different bands do and to internalize that feeling and know what it can do for you. So if you look at the outside bass drum, for example, so this was the raw. This is with Sugar. And this is what Sugar does for you. If I switched it to Punch, it would do this. Hear the transient coming up? This is Punch. This is thick. See how they tune differently? The Punch is tuned to be able to really hit it hard, and you don't lose the transient when you add it. And this is the whole signal. In this case, I think Punch is too much. I'm going to go back to thick. But Punch is super useful on full mixes. This is what Sugar adds to my mix bus. With Punch, it sounds like this. Listen to the attack of the bass drum. I'm not using a lot of it, so it's not as obvious, but I think it's going to be cool. So this is the Punch. Thick. Hear how the transient goes back a little bit. So let's listen to it in context. This is the full mix with Punch on the low band for the mix bus. Thick. here, wow, it gets forward. That's great. And I think I can high pass a little more.
Jump, fully braced. Oh, went the crazy wrong. Oh,
I think I went a little too far on the yin yang on the air band, on the torch.
jump, fully braced. Oh, went the crazy wrong. Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong.
And this, I don't like this as much as I did before, so I'm going to lower this process and maybe saturate it. It's so clean that it sticks out with the rest.
Jump, fully braced. Oh, went the crazy wrong. Oh, they require you calm, collected, resilient, strong. Oh, it would break for long, said the game, and I don't see no. Jump, fully braced.
I just switched from yin to yang on the vocal. Let's check it out. This is yang.
Time is up, jump, fully braced. Oh, went the crazy wrong.
Yang.
Time is up, jump, fully braced. Oh, went the crazy wrong.
So the yang gives me that presence that I was looking for. It puts it forward, but I think it sounds more like it to me, in my personal taste, in yang. So I'm going to leave it as such. I'm happy with this. This is lovely. What else can I do for you, Mark, and you lovely people?
Yeah, we have a question from Gibson in Bordeaux, France.
Yes.
He's asking if you would ever turn off linear phase mode.
Yeah, you could do that, and that is a very interesting can of worm the size of New Jersey, and New Jersey is big. So not a lot of people realize this because they tend to get what we wanted, which is the immediate reaction, the immediate connection with the plugin. But say if I go to the parallel kick, let's go to the outside kick. If you go in settings, you can turn linear phase mode off. And you'll notice that what it does is that the delay compensation goes from 1022 samples to 4. So that allows you to use Sugar on real-time stuff, because with 4 samples of latency, you're golden. But it does interesting things. So let's see. You can actually do wackier stuff, but now we're no longer there to make sure that you're not making mistakes. You're on your own. This is for adults only. So this is without linear phase. And then with linear phase, you notice the difference. So what happens is, because of the phase correlation and the phase rotations between low and medium, in this case, if I remove the linear phase, I get more bottom out of it because there's nodes and peaks and valleys. In this case, they happen to fall in a very pleasant spot. So it sounds like this in the mix.
Time is up, jump, fully braced.
Yeah, but we lose the punch. Did you hear that? The punch is gone.
Time is up, jump, fully braced. Oh,
Turn it back on.
time is up, jump, fully braced.
So this is an extreme case. This is why we made Sugar linear phase, is because these are two microphones that were in the same room at the same time on the same thing. Now, you could argue that you say we only use the bass DI. Woo. This is wilderness. This is with linear phase. So you can use the nonlinear phase mode to your advantage if you want obscene bottom with the low end, and also combining it, the low and the medium, because instead of playing nice, like the branches of government should play nice together, they fight, and it creates peaks and valleys, and some people benefit and others don't. So it's the same thing. So that's a very good question, Gibson. I would not have thought of pointing that out, but it's a really creative tool. This is probably something I would use more on the creation side, on the production side. Here's my 808. How insanely fat can I make it? Try the too low band of sugar in nonlinear phase mode and enjoy the drive. And make sure that you have new speakers in your Escalade or your Lake Tahoe SUV. So that's a good question. What else you got, Gibson?
This one's going to come from Germany instead. This is from Andre in Cologne, Germany.
What's up, Andre?
And he's asking, there are a lot of new plugins on the market like Goldfoss, Soothe, Center One, Stage One. What are the unique advantages of Sugar compared to them?
Well, none of those do the same thing at all. So Sugar is great for all the stuff I just showed you for the last 2 hours. Soothe is a wonderful piece of code that lets you, when you listen to a vocal and there's this one note that just goes, so the vocal's there, and then there's one note that goes, it just hurts you. Soothe is good for that. Something has been recorded unbelievably bright and you don't know what to do, and no amount of anything lets you put it back, and it has these peaks. It's kind of like think of it as an infinite band limiter that knows where to go. It's very smart. Those guys are awesome too. Very sweet people. Great plugin, highly recommended. Goldfoss is a psychoacoustic system that's based on how your brain listens to music. It's a very experimental thing. I haven't had the time to use it on anything. I've listened to it, and I've got a tutorial on it from the designers. And these are also extremely smart people. It comes from more from a math point of view, and their idea is to make music come out of the speakers more like it would feel if you were in the room with the track, if that makes sense. So it tries to recreate an oral kind of like emotional connection to music based on some cues that your brain is supposed to be looking for. So it's very different. Sugar is an analogizer, which I'm going to make that word illegal from this point on. I will no longer be able to say analogizer, but that's what it does. You felt it, right? You can just move things in and give color and dirt and punch or low end or high end or air really quickly. It's not based on psychoacoustics or anything. It's based on enhancing and compacting your existing signal in a way that doesn't take a PhD to get to. The other one, Stage One, and I forget what, I do not know. And now I feel stupid. So I'm going to go study after this.
Gibson's back again.
What's up, Gibson?
He wants to know if you can use Sugar for mastering.
Can you use Sugar for mastering? Yes. Since you can use Sugar on your mix bus, you can use Sugar for mastering. It's linear phase. It's extremely respectful of your signal because it's a good citizen. And it's been designed for that because I do a lot of that. And I'm here, I can decide, so might as well. The very useful stuff in Sugar, and you can probably see it on some of the tutorial videos I have created and that we have created for you, that I have chosen the example for. There's one that's on the mix bus, and mix bus and mastering are the same vibe because when you put something in your mix bus at the end of your mix, it's the same as if you were showing up the day after at the mastering house. And there's a track on there that has literally no bottom, and you push the low end on it, the low section on it, and it's fantastic. It really is fantastic. Also, that air thing is great, and the shine, the non-excited band, high band is also very useful. The excite with the kind of mixes that I get every day that are already insanely bright in that range. Excite is often too much for me, but the shine is just right because it takes what's there, compacts it, puts it back under. It's really nice. So yes, thank you, Gibson, for this fantastic question.
Awesome. Do you have any more mixing that you want to do?
No, I mean, let's be real. Actually, you know, I kind of like how dirty and raw and in your face this is, because this is pretty much how it felt in the room. And I'm really happy I got to this point, because in the room you really felt like you were attacked by a pack of wolves, which is kind of how this feels. So this kind of like removed, it put the music back in the music, this process. So I'm happy with this. If Josh Dion called me and said, hey, we're gonna release this as a record, could you please mix it? I think he would dig this. I would probably find some reverb to put more of a back wall into it, and I would do some automation, because this track is insane. It's long and it goes, it's like five plus minutes, and it goes up and down. So I would enhance that. But I really love how this feels when it comes on. You're like, whoa.
May or may not. They are lying over the hill. Over the hill. From our society. 89. I've examined. May or may not. Announced that they are localized.
It's too much in the pieces, the separate lives. Beyond guilt is the glimpse of the balance, the whole inside the demon called his stone. It's too high, I can dance and the demon, a doubted child. Up stone, I added so high, she climbed, clutched and trembled. Demon alone, really wide armed and fully braced. Back in the stone, time is jump, I'm fully braced.
It does what it's supposed to do. It puts the music back in the music. And if you listen to 2 bars without, like I did, you're like, oh, right, that's a recording, and this is a record. And those are the difference. And I only use sugar. If I were to make this into an absolute record, I would take a break right now and authorize myself. I would probably automate and make all those little cool events like this thing right here. Make sure that knocks you off your chair. And this one too. And make sure that kind of makes the bottom of your room tremble. Stuff like that. And maybe I could use some compression on the voice. It's difficult. Probably limiter. I don't know.
Oh, went to crazy wrong.
No, I'm happy with this. And in the track, 2 bars with, 2 bars without.
Need to heal. Get up, get out, get moving, get on with life. To be on, I know is to be something. And now that I'm love is one thing.
It's nice. I like it. It's a great version of this song, and it was a good way to demonstrate pretty much everything Sugar can do. The 4 different sections, every color in every section, the high pass filters, low pass filter. I didn't use the low pass filter. I'm not a big low pass filter guy, so I'm not the reference for that. We showed you MS. We showed you FX only, the level management, the bypass buttons on every band, and the secret weapon for those of you who want to break up SUV doors to remove the linear phase mode, but you can only use that after you sign a waiver. I think this is a good all around thing. And if you have more questions, you can write to us at Process.Audio. We have a team of guys who are like super knowledgeable and would be delighted to answer your questions. There's a 30-day free trial, so you can download it and try it. And if you're a PureMix member, you get it for free for the duration of your PureMix Pro membership, which is pretty rad, I think. That's it. Mark, do you have something else?
No, lots of people are digging the mix. I know it's kind of weird for you just shouting at a camera, so
It's mixing to a wall. It's really weird, but
yeah,
it's okay. It's cool. Someday somebody, probably Google, is going to invent some sort of a system where I can have some feedback from you guys, and we can all feel like we're in the same room. Maybe hologram. That wouldn't be creepy at all. So that's it.
Cool.
Unless you have something else, we're going to sign off.
Yeah, I think that we're good here. You got all the housekeeping stuff done.
Okay.
Guys, we have a Facebook group called Pure Mixers. You can come over there and keep the conversation going if you want to. And anything else you want to add, Fab?
I think I'm going to have a glass of red wine.
Nice. Thank you for doing this. It's awesome.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot for those of you who downloaded and tried Sugar. Thank you so much for the amazing, insane amount of positive email, feedback, WhatsApp, Messenger, texts. I haven't gotten a pigeon yet, but I'm sure one is on its way. Really appreciate it. Guillaume, myself, and the rest of the team put an insane amount of time, energy, and love into the plugin. It's been basically every nanosecond of free time that we could find in between PureMix videos, and me making records was put in Sugar. And everything from the sound of the plugin, the UX of the plugin, but also the UX of the website and how you go and how you authorize, and making sure that the PACE iLok implementation is as transparent as possible, and dealing with Apple, wonderful people, Microsoft, all those guys. We really wanted to make sure that when you start using Sugar and you give us a little bit of your time, that you get something beautiful in exchange with no friction, and it just feels good and it sounds good and it's a positive experience. And thanks for the feedback that is in telling us that that's what it is. I think we're working on something else. That'll be it for me for today.
Teasers. One more thing before we go. There's a entire Learning Center section on the website where you can watch Fab mix the trailer music, very similar to what we just did. And there's also individual videos for things like vocals, bass guitars, etc. So if you guys want to watch Fab do more of this, there's a bunch of videos on there. So I think that's all.
Ciao.
Thanks, guys.